Next guy, much wider range of draft outcomes, in my opinion, is Michael Penix Jr. Just recently at a pro day, and we talked about it before the show. Surprising as hell, 4.46 that he ran, like just wild. And the
Yeah,
guy is
didn't
like,
see that coming.
he's like a pylon in the pocket. He's not running for
Yeah.
nothing in the NFL. So don't let that 4.46 fool you. But I mean, good for him for sure.
Yeah.
I mentioned the wide range of outcomes, Wiz. Like I've seen people having teams trading back up into the first round to take Michael Penix. I've seen him mid to late second round potentially. Do you think he has a chance to sneak up into that first round? And if he does, do you have a landing spot or a team that you think might be trying to target him?
I have a tough time with the back half of the first round, right? Just because I think a lot of those teams are kind of set at quarterback already. But I think when you look towards like the top of the second round, right? Like that's maybe where we start to get in a situation where we could see something like that. And I think it's really going to depend, Trav, like how this draft plays out, right? Like, so say, for example, the Raiders kind of had this idea about trading up for Jaden Daniels, kind of like you mentioned earlier, right? Like, and that ends up falling through. Are they a team that potentially maybe moves up and trades for somebody like him, right? Like, because when you look at it, like, yep, they've got Gardner Minshew, they've got Aiden O'Connell, but like they really don't have like a future there, right? So that's one scenario where I could see somebody trading up. I have a hard time seeing getting to the first, but like, look, if you know those four quarterbacks, if Bo Nix ends up going and 12 to Denver, and now you've got four quarterbacks off the board in the first 12 picks, and maybe maybe the Raiders do feel like they have to move up to the top of the second. That's where I could kind of see him going.
Yeah, and I think to bounce off of that point, if I could, Wiz, I think those four quarterbacks getting pushed up into the top 12 and knowing like, oh shit, like Bo Nix should not be going as the 12th pick. I think that could make a team like the Seahawks at 16 even think about pulling the trigger on Michael Penix if they're confident. We talked a little bit about it last week and the Ryan Grubb impact being Penix's former offensive coordinator. Talked a little bit about that on the show with Dino Joe as well. And yeah, I just think he needs a place that's going to let him throw downfield and have wide receivers that can do it for him because he's going to need them to hold him up as opposed to him holding them up, in my opinion. And so, I mean, that's super reachy for the Seahawks to be going Michael Penix at 16, but I think the quarterback position just has maybe a little bit of a different set of rules. And especially when you get into a deep quarterback class where you might think you might have a couple of guys towards the top of the second round, but by the middle of the first, you see that might not be happening. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see. He's one of the ones I'm most intrigued because it's just, I know the least about where he's going to go. And who knows, maybe it's just some left field team that just comes out of nowhere and picks him somewhere, it's the draft is just a fun time and I'm just fired up to get to it, dude.